Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and welcome to our usual Monday stream, Think Out Loud. This is where I do realistic, usually fake work while thinking out loud so that those of you who are still learning and improving in the worlds of CX and UX can get inside my head and see how and why I do things, because I think that is missing from UX education right now. People show you the end, and hey, we started with this, and you're like, how did we get there? Hey, Solomon. LinkedIn is doing a better job notifying me of these streams. That's sad, and we all know why, but I'm happy to see you here either way. No matter how you get here, just get here. So put that up on the screen. And of course, a quick thank you to everybody who is supporting the channel financially through the YouTube membership program. It is totally optional, but always appreciated. Thanks to all of the low ego action heroes at all levels. The money goes to the software that I use to stream and also delicious chocolate chips. Hello, Elena and Ian. Elena, I liked your post on LinkedIn just now. I just commented. So thanks for that. If you are not following Elena on LinkedIn, go ahead. It's Alaina, as you see on the screen here. And then I think her last name is Talboy. Did I get that right? From memory. So yeah, check out her stuff and her new book. So, all right. So today is episode 14 from the Think Out Loud series, which means this will go in the Think Out Loud playlist on YouTube. Correct. Hello, Abdul Malik. And we are continuing from last week. So episode 13, this is a continuation. If you haven't seen episode 13, episode 14 is going to be a little bit like, what happened here? But I promise that together these two make sense. So to catch you up on what happened in episode 13, in case you missed it, though it'll be in the YouTube archives, hello, Prajot again. So we looked last week because of something you sent in, and if you'd like me to work on something you send in, here's how you do it. Just go to deltacx.com/links and look for the Think Out Loud stream and send something in so that I have something to work on next Monday. I think we'll be done with this one after today. So for last week, someone sent in a kind of fake project for us to take a look at websites or apps or systems that pair up people to be conversation partners. That's why it says conversation partners over my head. For learning languages. So for example, real life thing, I'm learning Italian. I might want to be paired up with a native speaker of Italian so that I can practice talking to them. They might want to be paired up with a native speaker of English, me, so that we can also practice English, and I can, of course, I'm good enough at English to correct them. They're good enough at Italian to correct me. We took a look at a couple of websites that actually do this right now, and we didn't totally love the way that they get you set up or maybe even how they match you. So last week we talked about if this were a real project, how would I go about doing the research to learn more about these the target audience or target customer, target user for being kind of matched up or paired up for language conversation practice. Now, again, this is totally fake. So we kind of can't get this wrong, but so last week we looked at how would I do research, and today we'll look at I'll do some live design on how I would create, or at least my first stab at creating an interface for the onboarding part of it. And that's really kind of the most important piece here, because if we don't get some good information from people up front, we're not going to be able to match them. And really, this is another form of a dating website, though hopefully without the dating, in that we're trying to take people who speak certain languages and match them up with people who want to learn a language where they each have like the opposite language in common, if that makes sense. But we want it to be great a great user experience. We want it to be fast. We want it to be easy. We want it to be obvious, intuitive, logical. We want it to be ethical, and we want it to not ask people for stuff we don't need. And we saw that last week in episode 13, where I think it was tandem.net was trying to force me to put in my real name and other pieces of information about myself, where you're like, I don't think I want to give them this information. So now again, for a show like today, where we're going to do design in real life, it would be best to be doing design work after good, thorough, observational, qualitative research has been done. And we have all of the data, the artifacts, the video clips, the maps, the insights and opportunities and pain points and all of that stuff that we learned. That would absolutely inform my design. We don't have that. We didn't really do any research. We don't have any research. So we're going to have to pretend some things for this design work. We're going to have to assume some things for this design work. But just know that in a real project, I don't want to guess at things. I don't want to assume things. I usually think of that as not UX design. That kind of ends up being web design. And to me, the difference is web design is you've made something you think is going to be good. And UX would be we're working from great UX research, and we're going to do some proper UX testing, usability testing, iterate on the idea or its execution, and that way it's involving real or archetypal users. If we are just giving our best guess at a design or a better page, I usually don't see that as UX work, because where was the you? Where was the user in all of that? They got left out. So that just kind of makes it designing websites. So with that being said, let's flip over to my screen. And I'm going to get a couple of screens ready here, and then I'll shift over so you can see what we are looking at. Press the button. This button should be the right button. Okay, this should shift us over. Yes. Okay, so here we have the chat room and the optional tip jar and me. And hopefully, if I'm pointing correctly, my whole screen. Yes, right hand. Last week, so this is what we did. And if you'd like to visit it on the web, you can see it. It is at QXN like Nancy, P like Peter, Z like zebra, B like Bravo, .axshare.com. That's AXSHARE, because I am using Axshare. This is not sponsored. I pay Axshare and they don't pay me. So I am just an Axshare fan. I am using it voluntarily. Hello, Keatsies. Or Andreas, however you go by. So this is what we did last week. We took a look at what the person sent in through the form, which you can fill out. We took a look at a start of a research plan with some goals, who we'd want to meet, some questions, and we assumed that in this case, somebody wants to learn German. They speak English now, and they want to learn German. So this was some of the things that we would have done in the name of research. But today, let's imagine that we are going to do a little bit of design. Now, again, I'm not going to go too wild with things like visual styles, or how wide is the page, or what do my buttons look like, or is my typography good? Assume that this is just a really early concept, and it's okay for it to be a little bit gritty, a little bit dirty. I don't do hand sketching, but I will just jump right in and start throwing stuff on a page and clean it up later sometimes. So think of this at the early concept stage. Hello, Antonio from Mexico, and Luisa Fernanda in Colombia. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm in Italy, so good evening. All right, so again, imagining that this page has some sort of header on it and footer on it, let's just move through. Let's just start with thinking about onboarding and thinking about the minimum viable information we can collect from someone to get them into this system. And also thinking, so we have to imagine that this is a registration flow. So this is somebody who's joining our website for the first time, and we want to see how we'll get enough information from them to try to match them up with a language partner. Now, of course, we don't have to do that. We could say, well, the system's just going to let you sign up, and then you have to to post a message and ask for a language partner and see who responds to you. We saw that on italki last week in episode 13. I think we can do better. I think we can create a little dating website type of algorithm where we try to match up people with each other. So let's see where we might start. So we might start by collecting a little bit of information from someone. And I'm going to start with, and again, I might change this later. That's the beauty of starting with a totally blank canvas and just throwing some ideas on there. And if you watch these episodes, you'll know I sometimes change my mind completely in the middle of designing, but you know, that's the way it really works. And I'll be thinking out loud. If there's something that you don't know why I'm doing it or why didn't I do something different, and you're watching live, make sure you ask. If you're watching this later, ask in the comments and I will reply to you. But I want to make sure that everybody, especially people looking to learn design, are getting a feel for how I go from a blank screen to starting to make something. So let's do it. So I'm going, and I already made I killed it. My page, it's gone. Oh, I had a page where I pre-made a bunch of things. Let me just grab that from another file. It'll just take a minute in Axure. I'm sorry about that. Let's grab it from the time management page. So what do I need? I need the components. I think that was what it was. Okay, so components. Give me a moment. Components. I think my styles should still be there. I'm not using variables. All right, let's see if that helps. This is just because previously in Axure, I'd made myself some standard components, you know, form fields and buttons, just so this looked like something. So there you go. Excuse me. I'm shifting into spring allergies. I don't know about the rest of you. And yeah, some of these are ugly, they're unattractive, but again, I'm not going to judge the visual design of this right now. Think of this at the early concept level. So I know that I'm going to need a bunch of form fields. So let's go to the onboarding design page and let's start dropping some fields on here. We definitely are going to want to get an email address from people. So I will grab a field label and I'm going to put it here. I tend to be a little bit old school about my labels because I care about accessibility. So I don't do wacky things like putting the label inside the field or having it move when people shift. I know those things can look cool, but I want to make sure that people with different accessibility needs can easily use this. So let's start with what is your email address? And eventually we'll want to verify that email, maybe send them a code or something like that. I would steal from an idea that I saw another website do. I think it was Coolers. They sent you a color because they're a color website. If you say that you want to learn German, maybe we send you a German word and you have to write that. But that would be tough because it might have, you know, special characters and you might not know how to type a special character. So I already hate my own idea. Okay, so we want people's email. I think it's also a great time to let them pick a username. And that way we can see if the email address and or the username are unique. So I would make sure that we are, let's see, public username or account name. This is how we'll refer to you on the site. You know, you don't have to put Debbie Levitt or Antonio Garces. You can just put, you know, cool guy 1. And so we want to make sure to check for these to be unique. And if they're not unique, we'll have to give people an error message. So again, there's lots of other states that we could be designing here. And you can't just design the happy path. That's another mistake I think a lot of newer designers make, which is, hey, the email's unique. They're going to pick a great username. Next step. And I go, hold on, did you design what it looks like and what the interaction is like if they don't enter in a correct email or enter in an email that's already in our system. Maybe they've registered before and they forgot. What if they pick a username that's already taken? How are we going to treat that? So remember, especially you new designers, don't only design the happy path, make sure you've designed all the possible outcomes. Now, what would really help you here, which I didn't do today because I've only got an hour show to do what I might spend days on in real life. But what you would normally do first is either you would get from, if the researcher has done an optimized task flow, you might be working from that. If you or an information architect has created a user flow, you would work from that. And the user flow, by drawing a flow chart of what people go through, you'll remember, oh yeah, the flow chart doesn't do it. And again, sometimes people who learn flow charts from boot camps in certain programs, they don't learn flow charts completely correctly. A flow chart needs to show every step somebody could possibly take and where things branch off. So there is a branch where this isn't an email address, give them an error message. We already have the email address in our system. They've registered before, help them log in. Or this really is a fresh new account. Kitsi says, I'm guilty of designing only the happy paths, and then developers are shouting. Absolutely true. Remember, we need to make sure that we're doing that. And again, we can remind ourselves if we just take the time to build that flow chart first, if we don't already have it from something else. So for example, we might say, we need to collect and again, I'm just going to mock this up really quickly, but we might say that we need to collect their email address. And then there's some possible outcomes here, which is, let's see, is email valid? So for example, did somebody write a valid email address or did they give us an invalid email address? Okay, then there's probably going to be another break here, and I could take the time to put all the arrows between them, but I'm just going fast here. Is the email unique? Meaning, is it brand new or does it already exist in our database? We're going to send somebody down another path if we go, oh, wait a minute, you're trying to sign up as Debbie at gmail.com, which is not my email, Debbie at gmail.com, you're already in our system. Did you want to change your email address or do you need help logging in or forgot your password? So remember, there's going to be all different screens or interactions or things that we show people based on these things. And then typically the flow chart shows kind of what happens in these different cases. So for example, I can show the arrows from here. I know I've got big, ugly arrows. Last time I did this, I used big, ugly arrows, so please excuse me. But Ian says, how do you handle information paths that aren't necessarily for the user, but are required to be communicated to a system admin? Can you give me an example? Would this be like how the system is going to check for something? There's certainly a way to do that. Typically, you are using where is it? There's a funny shape here that usually means we're hitting a database. Oh, here it is. We're hitting a database and we're checking for stuff. So you might show in your flow chart like, hey, is the email valid? Well, we're going to check in the database for the existing email. And if it's again, maybe this looks a little bit different. Maybe then someone types in an email address, we check this is the check the database thing in the flow chart, and then we would go, aha, if this exists in the database, we're going to send people down this path. If it doesn't exist in the database, we'll send people down this path. So again, this is definitely not a show about flow charting. It's accidentally become one. I do want to get back to the design, but just a reminder to everybody, especially you newer designers, take the time to flow chart these things out and take a look at when do we have possible different paths that people might go in. And we can definitely see that happening for the email, that the email's invalid. I wrote Debbie at Gmail and there's no .com in there. That's an invalid email. The email's not unique. whatever. Yes, exactly that. Thank you. Yeah. So again, you can always use database if you need to show that this accesses a backend system. It's something that the user wouldn't necessarily see, but it shows the involvement of our system. You can always Google flowcharts. You know, this is not magic. It's not just UX. These are pretty standard IT or tech or software flowcharts, and get to know what the different shapes mean, and get familiar with how much these normally should be built out if you're showing the user flow. You can't just do the happy path. So let's say we're going to ask people for their email, some sort of public username. We might ask them for a password, but I think for accessibility, I think in a later version where they're trying to change the way passwords work. I didn't look this up fully yet, so I apologize. We can put in password for now, but chances are we need to send someone a magic link no matter what. We're sending them a magic link or an email verification to make sure they entered the right email, that it's really their email, stuff like that. Because last week, remember, I said I was Puppy McPuppy at puppy.com or something. So sorry to somebody at puppy.com who got a fake email from me. So we might have email, public username. Now we could just stop right there. Maybe that's your first step, because we want to make sure that if we're going to validate stuff or error people out or make them stop and fix something, that they haven't filled out a long form. We all know how frustrating it is to fill out a lot of stuff and then find out you got the beginning wrong. So remember, it's okay to break things into steps if you think it's going to be simpler, easier, more intuitive for the user, especially with something like email and username, because maybe this person forgot they already had an account and we don't want to take them through a long sign up process if it turns out they already have an account. Though for the purposes of building today, we'll assume the path of I've never been here before, I'm making a new account. So quite simply for right now, let's just imagine, and again, pretend I'm sketching, because I usually don't sketch, but like what I'm doing now is similar to sketching. I'm just putting the basics on the page so that I can just get some ideas out of my head, and I'll do that as a first pass, and then I'll come back later and say, how do I make this better? How do I make this simpler? How do I get the guy outside to stop beeping? Usual questions that anybody would have. So for now, let's imagine that we ask people simple stuff, and then we give them the chance to move to the next step. So let's imagine this says next. And and again, I could circle back and put in the error messages and field hints and things like that. But again, imagine I'm at just like sketching early concept level. Now, I might imagine that the next thing I want people to do is maybe fill out some of their information about the languages that they speak and the languages that they want to learn. Now, what sometimes happens, especially when people are new to design, is they think, okay, now I'm going to move people to the next page. But if you think about the way a lot of apps and systems that you use now actually work, you stay on the same page and you just get a new, screen of stuff, but you didn't have to leave that page. It's all happening in one screen. And I think that sometimes people do the multiple, and again, pretend I'm not in an app, pretend this is a website. But I think sometimes people do the multiple screen thing when they are new to design and aren't really thinking about the way things work, or, wait for it, the company they're working at measures page views. The more pages people see, the better this company thinks they're doing. Now, they're wrong, but companies will still think this way. And so sometimes people make all of these steps separate pages, but that's probably going to be slower for you, and it's going to, for the user, it's going to feel like this process is going in slow motion. By the way, please do subscribe here on the Delta CX YouTube channel and tell some friends about what we do here. I'm sure you know other people looking to learn and improve CX and UX, so please spread the word. Tell 3 people this week. Okay, so let's imagine I want to move to the next screen. Now, again, in Axure, I can do this pretty easily by using dynamic dynamic panels in Acture. But remember, this isn't really an Acture lesson. I'm just going to move this down and out of the way just so it's not on top of our flowchart. If you want to learn Acture, there's a playlist here on YouTube called Rapid Prototyping with Acture, and I've got over 13 hours of free lessons. So if you'd like to learn Acture, you can for free. I'm one of their recommended trainers. So I'm going to create a panel here, and I'm going to call this Reg Panel because it's kind of registration plus onboarding, and I just want to give it a quick, easy name to remind myself what the heck I'm doing. And let's see. Okay, I must have over filtered here. All widgets placed or unplaced. Oh, there we go. Let's just turn that off so everybody can see what I'm cooking with here. Okay, so this first state would be, and again, states of a panel, if you haven't used Acture, you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's going to be kind of like screens on the same page. So this will be email and username, and then I will create another one. Let's say I duplicate this. And let's imagine that we're going to ask people languages, the languages they speak and the languages they want to learn. So now let's take a look at this screen. Here we go. So this wouldn't be an input field because we don't want people to just type into a box. We want them to be able to probably select from a drop list of languages, and we probably want them to be able to choose multiple languages. Now, depending upon how big your company is, this is where we have to think about what is the right way to do this. Some people say, well, Deb, just make a drop list. Let people pick a language off a drop list. And I go, okay, but a drop list is designed to pick one thing. What if I speak multiple languages and I'm looking to learn a new one? The drop list only allows me to pick one thing. So remember, part of being a good designer is thinking out multiple possible outcomes, because if we just made this a drop list, I think we'd be making a mistake, because then we're forcing people to pick one choice. Now, we could give people checkboxes. Checkboxes for every language on the planet is going to get messy pretty fast. So we're either going to have to say, hey, look, we're a new company. We're only going to start out dealing in these 1 languages, 2 languages, 10 languages, 50 languages, whatever it might be. Maybe a company starts out with a lower number of things to kind of see how things are going. Maybe you're a startup or something. Or, of course, we have to make the decision that, no, wait, this can handle any language on the planet, even ones people want to type in because they're not in our drop list. So, this is why we have to think about different interactions and think things out in the future, because otherwise, again, I think someone would just make a drop list and go, yep, pick your language. So remember, on the language, we might start with what languages do you speak fluently, because these will be the languages that you can help other people with. And then we might have, what languages do you want to learn? Well, we're not really a teaching website. We pretended here that we were practice. So, and again, these aren't great. This isn't great wording. I would normally work with a writer and do a better job here. But now we have to talk about what interaction method we're going to use. Ian says, I have in the past used a tag system for something similar with a predefined list of subjects, revealing it on the second or third letter. Right, so you're talking about a predictive search is what that's usually called. That's like when you go to Google and you start searching for something and Google drops down a menu and says, we think you mean these 10 things. And the more you type, the more it matches up with what you've been typing. That's called a predictive search. Now, I can do a predictive search in Acture. It's just a little bit on the advanced side. So let me see if I can find it. Predictive search. Yeah, the problem is that to do a predictive search with a tag, or what's sometimes called a chip, would take me a long time to build. So for now, I'm just going to build this in small pieces because, again, remember, imagine this is my first pass. I'm just trying to get some ideas out of my head. It's like sketching. I'll come back through later and I'll make it better. So I can't remember the difference between. Okay, no, I need this one. So this is an Acture predictive search. And it's imperfect, but I'm just going to run with it for now because, again, this is me sketching. So let's imagine that I go into this and I say the languages are English, German, French, Italian, Spanish. Let's just say we start with that as a preliminary set, and people will be able to grab that. So let's see how this looks so far. Let's pretend I put this in. Now I made a cheesy hover state for the next button, but I didn't build the next button to do anything. So now I have to teach Acture if somebody clicks next, I want you to go to the state of the panel. Sorry, sometimes my mouse moves very slowly when I'm doing this, and I'm not too sure why. Languages, and we can give it an animation if we want. I'm going to give it a slide down. Let's see. Animate in slide down. Does that look the way I want? Let's try it. All right, save, refresh. Okay, so pretend I filled these in next. Oop, that felt like it went in the wrong direction. I needed to slide up. Ouch, ouch. You can see why I like to bring my ideas to life immediately in Acture, because then they start to feel realistic and like a website, and I could say, oh, that sucks. Here we go. So what languages do I speak fluently? English. So you can see this Acture has a widget that realistically looks through the data set that we gave it. So if I say Spanish, then it's got that. And of course I can choose it. It didn't create that chip or that tag that Ian is talking about. I'm going to just leave it like this for now, knowing that if I like this idea, I'm going to come back later and build those chips or tags. All right, so let's send this to the back. It's in my way. What languages do you want to practice? I'm going to move this stuff down because now this feels like everything was a little bit too on top of each other. And I'm just going to copy and paste the exact same thing we just did because let's say you can only choose from those 5 languages for practice. So I'll put that over here. There we go. The next button probably needs to move down a bit. Come on, next button, I'm clicking for you. Oh, there you were. Come back. One more. There we go. Let's move that next button down just to get it out of the way. And it doesn't do anything now. We have nowhere for it to go to. But at least we can test this and see how it feels. Next, I speak English. Okay, and I'm trying to learn. Now, in this case, this project was supposed to be about German. So we've got German. Pradyot says, does Acture have a free version? There is a 30-day free trial of Acture. You can download it from Acture.com. After that, it is paid. The lower price, I believe, is $24 American per month. It is not an inexpensive tool. If you are currently in school, you can write to sales@Acture.com and see if they will give you an extension of the free license to help you out there. Okay, let's also move this out a little bit. Oop, just because it looks a little funny, but really none of these things line up right for now. And let's not get too hung up on it. All right, there we go. All right, so we need to know, and again, we could dress this up. These could have flags. These could be themed and have nice colors and stuff. I'm just going, really fast to get some ideas out of my head because, hey, this stream ends in 25 minutes and we're done. All right, so let's see. What do we want to ask people after their languages? I think in a website that's going to match people up, We probably need to ask, if they accept terms and conditions. So let's sneak that in over on our first screen. Checkbox. Do you accept our completely ethical terms? Yes. And again, I could always make it so that we cannot continue until people check that off, but we'll just leave it like this for now. This alignment looks a little funny. This style is a little funky, but I'm not gonna, let's see, can I make, yeah, that's still a little bit ugly, but whatever. Pretend this is Debbie sketching. So okay, so we need terms and conditions because, again, we probably don't want to walk people through a whole sign-up flow if they don't accept our terms. We might as well find out early that they don't really want to be here for whatever legal reason. Let's see, what else might we need to ask? Now, remember, at this point, normally you might have this information from other people. There might be a business analyst, there might be a product manager who says, you know what, in order to get people into our system, we need to collect this information. And I'm not guessing like I am right now. Sometimes the person who has that list has a bad list, and we have to go and fight it because the list is bad. Boo. Sometimes they want to collect things that are really nobody's business. You know, what's your age? What's your gender? How much money do you make? You know, it starts to be like, wait a minute, what is this site? Again, this is a little bit too invasive. So I would say let's make sure we're asking people the fewest questions possible to get them in our system and using the system. That's really the best way to go. If we've built a great system, let's get them in there and have them using it. Let's stop asking them lots of questions. So, you know, we could ask people their gender or their age, but ultimately, if we're going to give them a way to connect with each other, they'll decide if they don't want to talk to someone. If someone who's 70 doesn't want to talk to someone who's 20, that's their choice. Otherwise, why couldn't those two people talk? I don't want our system to, you know, this isn't romance. This is just people practicing conversation and learning languages. So gender or gender identity shouldn't necessarily matter. Age shouldn't necessarily matter, just like ethnicity shouldn't matter. Location shouldn't matter. You know, and there's a lot of things here that don't matter. Like hypothetically, we could be done. Like that could be it. You know, do we know your email? Do we know what name you want to use in the public space? Do we know what languages you speak? And do we know what languages you want to learn so we can match people up? Ian says, on the subject of age, what if they're minors? Okay, great question. So chances are buried in our terms and conditions, we've probably said something about you must be at least X years old, blah, blah, blah. Now, what companies normally do is they normally ask for your birthday. I tend to dislike that because my birthday, at least for some places, that's going to be like a piece of information that you might need to hack my identity or my credit or something like that. So I do not like to give away my real birthday. I think that we could just as easily say, have another checkbox because we don't want to bury it in terms and conditions and say something like, you know, that this site can only be used by adults, you know, I promise. And another thing that companies sometimes do is they make you put in a credit card because they think only adults have credit cards and that kids never steal their family's credit cards and stuff like that. So I think that for now, I'm just going to put in a checkbox. I might change my mind later, but at least this will remind me of what Ian said, that we have to do something about minors. So here, let's say I confirm that I am an adult, and I'll just put that for now. Let's just say, you know, just leave that like that for now, knowing that this is a first pass. So give me 1 second. I'm going to have to do something I think I've never done on a live stream before, and I'm going to have to pause and run away and be right back. Give me 1 second. Hey everybody, sorry about that. That is the fun of a one-woman show. Sometimes when something's going on, I've just got to handle it. So anyway, thanks for giving me a minute there, and I am back, and I'm certainly live. So let's thank you to Ian for that good reminder that we do. And again, sometimes it's just buried in terms and conditions, but I think if we want to be more ethical, we have to find some way to pull this out. Normally, in a case like this, I am working with a product manager, maybe a business analyst, maybe even the legal department for what is the right way for us to make sure that we have covered our bases legally and that we're doing good, right, ethical things. Pradyot said, is the full stop necessary after adult? Yes. So at least in American English, if something is a sentence, I normally put a period or full stop at the end of it. If it didn't have that, it would look like a sentence that wasn't quite finished. And I think for some native English speakers, that would look like a possible mistake. So I tend to make sure that sentences and questions and things end with punctuation. But again, I'm not usually the writer on a project like this. I might get the final copy from a professional writer, maybe a content strategist or content designer or UX writer. So however they give it to me is how it's going to go in. So that would be it. And Ian says, thank you for the CC suggestion. Yeah, again, people do sometimes try to say, oh, this person's an adult because they put in a credit card, but that knocks out all the people who, for whatever reason, don't have a credit card. Like here I am, I live in Italy. A lot of people don't have credit cards. They might have bank cards, but they don't want to put that in. So that's a mess. Pradyot says, but in bullet points, the option is very vague. I do tend to put periods at the end of my bullet points. Some people use commas or semicolons, depending upon what the bullet points are. So again, we would have to check. I tend to go by the AP style, so I would have to check how they do it. So I am not going to ask for a credit card. Even if this is a paid service, chances are we're going to give people a free trial. So now, if this is a paid service, we probably do have to let them know somewhere in here that eventually we expect them to pay. So maybe the next thing they see, and I'm pretending, is maybe we create another state. And let's call this verified. I can't think of anything right now. I'm not feeling totally creative today. I'm still on long weekend brain break. And let's drop some text in here. And let's say, great to meet you. Name. Your free trial starts today and ends in 7 days. If you love our system, you will be billed $2.99. I'm making this up. $2.99 per month starting in 7 days. And again, I would get better text from the writer. And of course, chances are you have figured out your business model. I'm totally making this up, but let's imagine that's all we needed from people. And now we're ready to go. So I'm going to go grab my button again, copy. It's down here now. Actually, you're so weird. Paste. Why? Put it down here, and perhaps this says, let's go. But again, I would get all of this copy from the copywriter, and I would just put these in as placeholders. And also for fun, I am going to replace the name with their actual name. So let's call this username input. And just so people can see some fun things Acture can do, we will say, no, I need for this to say, oops. Okay, let's name this. This is welcome text. And let's say when people type in here, when people type in here, go right over on the welcome text. And let's drop some fun stuff in here. Username input. Okay. All right, so I'm dynamically dropping their username in here. Just brings a little bit more realism to my prototype. And that way if I, oh, hello. That way if I do go to usability test it, it will feel realistic. Let's refresh. So let's pretend my username is going to be Debbie. Let's pretend I accept these terms, even though I didn't build anything in Acture that blocked people from continuing without checking those, which I can build in Acture. But again, this is like early sketch concept time for me. What languages? Oh, we never hooked up the last bit of that. So let's go back to this next button and teach Acture. If people click this next button, we get the last screen. We probably also need a back button. Hello. So always remember when you're nexting your way through things, give people a way to go back. So this would take people to the next screen in the panel. We said verified with a slide up. Okay, and I technically also need a back button, so I'll grab my secondary button. And I might throw it over here. Send it to the back, because there is layering happening here. And let's say we want to make it so that if people click the back button, they go backwards, which means they would go back to the email and username panel. I can't think of a good reason for anybody to do that, but just for building things out sake, let's try it. All right, let's try refreshing. Okay, so let's pretend I put in my email. Let's pretend my public username, oop, I am all over the place today, is Debbie. Let's pretend I checked these off. Now I'm saying next. So what languages do I speak? I speak English. What do I want to learn? We said last time we were pretending people wanted to learn German. Oops, I forgot to write back. It still says secondary button. Wah, wah. Next. Great to meet you, Debbie. Your free trial starts today and ends in 7 days. If you love our system, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it also says check your email to verify your email, blah, 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 whatever this is going to say. But you can see one nice thing about Acture that helped bring this to life was I was able to grab whatever people put in that input field earlier in this flow and drop it here, which just hopefully gives this a little bit of personality and brings it to life and makes it feel more realistic. So any thoughts or questions on this kind of onboarding that we've looked at? I think a common mistake that I see with onboarding, especially when I look at a lot of your portfolios, is very often I see stuff too much onboarding. Usually there's a lot of stuff in there that kind of nobody wants to do. And let's write back over here. And so sometimes people think onboarding is like, let's get everything we could ever need from somebody and then go. And I say, look at the apps and systems that you use. Very often to sign up for something, you just need name and email, or name and email and credit card if they're going to charge you soon or now. Name and email and a couple of settings like we've done here. So when you're thinking about onboarding, don't necessarily go with what the bootcamp or the course taught you. Make sure you are always looking at how do we simplify. What is the least amount of information we can collect from somebody in order to move them through the system, and again, maybe here we also say, check your email and verify your email in the next 24 hours. so your account will stay active. And again, I'm not the writer, but pretend that this is what this says. And I'm firing a little bit of a warning at people to say they're going to have to check their email and verify it. Otherwise, we're going to close their account and assume they're not real. Now, again, you might talk to your in-house lawyer or somebody and say, hey, look, someone could do a lot of damage in this system in 24 hours. We want people to verify immediately. Oh, okay. So you've got 15 minutes. You know, whatever it is. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about thinking critically, thinking about possible outcomes, and thinking about bad actors. What could a truly terrible person do if they were allowed into our system, a system that's going to match people up and bring them together for conversation, possibly video calls and things like that? What could happen if we haven't verified them and we don't know who they are? Now, again, that opens up another whole can of worms, which is we might end up talking to the product managers or the business analysts or the lawyers, and they might say, hey, we need a lot more information from these people because we don't want to run the risk that somebody we can't track down is being abusive or threatening or whatever to our members. Maybe you do have to collect a thing. Maybe there's a one-time fee to join, and now we've hit their credit card or their bank account, which would give us hopefully a very good idea of who they are, because we're not going to accept Bitcoin. So again, there's a lot more to think out here, but I always advise people when you are building stuff, especially anything that's going to connect to people, a buying and selling marketplace, a delivery service, a find a babysitter service, dog walker service, anytime you are something like an eBay or an Etsy, anytime you are connecting two people who are possibly going to meet in real life or have a video call or speak to each other, you probably have to collect a little bit more information up front to feel like you did your best to figure out who these people really are, to verify their identities, because once people are doing their conversation practice, we don't know what they're going to say to each other. That also means, hypothetically, and everybody knows I hate giving people lessons. I don't like to build a system that gives people lessons, but we might decide that the next thing that happens is a little safety tutorial. We are bringing you together with a stranger for the purpose of conversational practice, and you should not be giving up. You don't have to tell anybody your full name. You don't have to tell them, we suggest you not tell people your full name. We don't tell them where you live, your birthday, any banking or financial information. We might have to include a step in this that reminds people of that kind of thing. So, just as an example, even though I might change my mind on how to design this later, and we've only got 5 more minutes left together, so I'll build this and we'll call it a project, which means, hold on. Don't forget to subscribe here on the channel and let people know what's going on here. And don't forget, if you've got something you want to see me plan research around or do some design around, send it in to go to deltacx.com/links, and you'll see a place to send in Think Out Loud streams. Okay, so let's throw in another thing here. Let's imagine we've got some text. Let's imagine we need to add another screen in here with some sort of disclaimer or warning. And again, I'm not saying this is the best way to go. This is my early concept, and I might swing back later and to improve this. I might usability test it on some of our target customers and then fix it. So let's say this is a mini safety tutorial. Jamila says, I remember having to go through a background check before being able to use a babysitter service or sign up for jobs as a babysitter. Yeah, I mean, since this is conversational practice and we're not necessarily having you watch someone's child, I'm not sure we have to do that. But again, I would be checking with our lawyers on what we have to do or should do to be ethical and to help protect people. So let's say I say, hey, Company X, I don't even know what our fake company is called. Company X brings people together for fun conversational practice in various languages. While we do what we can to create an ethical and safe environment, we suggest, and again, a writer and a lawyer are the right people to write this. This is placeholder text from me, totally placeholder. Fix this later. We suggest that you never reveal any of the following to any of your conversation partners. And I could just make a little bulleted list. Where did Action remove bullets? So we could say full name, location, address, location or address. And again, I would have lawyers or other people write this. Location or address, banking, financial, or other personal information. And again, you can look up whether you want periods or commas or whatever at the end of each of these bullets, up to you. Information that could lead to identity theft. Again, this sounds a little alarming. This is why I would have somebody else rewrite this. This is very placeholder. Such as your national ID number. Mother's maiden name is a big one in America, though not necessarily in other countries. Pet's name or birth date or other information normally used to secure your privacy. And again, this is terribly written. Just assume that we're going to get something better from somebody. And then let's give them some options. Let's give them let's go back and steal a couple of my buttons here. Let's steal both these buttons. And then we're going to have to wind up the stream. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. But this is where I would start on a project like this. Oop, I'm in the wrong state. I need to be over here. Sorry. I guess the holiday weekend really put me in holiday mode. And I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, let's move this over here. So I'm just pretending that at this point, these are our options. Again, this is an early sketch. This is something I might change later. Let's imagine that I promise to be careful takes people to the last screen. So that would be verified, and we said slide up, made it look like you were going to the next thing. And let's imagine that our next button back here now doesn't jump to the end. It jumps to the mini safety tutorial. So instead of verified, you're going to go to the safety tutorial. Let's preview this again. So today I'm Jamila. Okay, what languages do I speak? I'll speak English. We'll pretend I want to learn German. Next. Hey, are you sure? Be careful. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe there's a checkbox here. Maybe they have to type their name to say, I agree. Yeah, I've read this and I'm signing this. This is where I check with lawyers. And then I say, I promise to be careful. And we've got our flow ending. So that's a little bit of some simple onboarding, but it had some complexities probably from legalities. It really wasn't a difficult flow to build, but it was more like, there's probably some legal things here that I'm going to have to think about if I want to do this right. So yeah, that's going to be Think Out Loud stream for today. And I'll probably call that an end to this particular project. I don't think I'm going to build out the entire system for matching people up with languages, though I guess if nobody sends anything in, I'll work on that next week. But if somebody does send something in, then we can work on something fresh. Let's see, did anyone send anything in? We got a Ask Me Anything question, but I don't see one for this. If we don't get something in, then I'll certainly continue on this. Otherwise, at least from onboarding, I think we're pretty good. Maybe next time we might look at how it matches you with people and how you open up a conversation with them and see if you want to meet them. All right. So again, please do subscribe and let people know about the channel. It's your last chance to ask any questions because now we're running late and we're going to have to get out of here. But again, anything you want to know about the stream is usually over here on deltacx.com/links. How to join our free Slack community, how to ask questions on tomorrow's Ask Me Anything show, which I do every Tuesday. Pradyot says the session was enlightening. Thank you. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that on Mondays we'll do some sample research planning or sample fake design so we can take a look at how to think things through and make sure we're covering all those bases and not just designing the happy path where nothing ever goes wrong, because it always goes wrong. We all see enough error messages all day long to know things go wrong for good and bad reasons. So remember, more than the happy path. Alrighty. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, so I'm going to play us out of here, but I will be here twice tomorrow for office hours, since once a month I do an early office hours and a late office hours. I will be here at 10 a.m. Italy time, and then again our usual time, 6:30 p.m. Italy time, with a special guest who's new to me, so hopefully he's good at answering questions. But let me know if you have any questions. Again, deltacx.com/links will let you send something in for the Ask Me Anything Tuesday show. Thank you, Jamila. Everybody have a good rest of your Monday, and I hope to catch you tomorrow. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are